Hello, my name is Aiden and I'll be talking about everything wrong with aerial fishing and my suggestions on how to fix it. Aerial fishing is an activity located in the Cabos lowlands, more specifically in the middle of Lake Mulch. To begin, you need a level of 35 hunter and 43 fishing. The activity itself is quite simple. You grab a bird and click a fishing spot. The bird will fly from your arm to the fishing spot and back, bringing you a fish that you can then cut to make into fish chunks. These fish chunks can in turn be used to feed your bird, creating a self-sustaining activity. If you don't have any fish chunks to start, there's king worms laying around that you can use as food to get you started. The act of catching a fish gives hunter and fishing experience, and cutting the fish will give you cooking experience, all according to the type of fish. Additionally, every now and then your bird will bring a mulch pearl alongside the fish it caught. This can be used to purchase items from the activities store. Before we start, have you heard about the law of large numbers? Basically, if you flip a coin, you have a 50% chance to get either side, but if you flip it only 2 times, you might get tails twice. Flip it again and you might get tails again, making it a 100% rate of tails. But that's wrong, because we know that it's a 50% chance, and that's what the law of large numbers tells us, that given enough tries, we'll eventually hit that 50% rate of heads to tails. Back to aerial fishing. The main reason right now to do this activity is to obtain the pearl rods. For that, we'll be needing 370 mulch pearls. Getting a mulch pearl is a 1 in 100 chance, which goes down to 1 in 75 as you get higher level in both the hunter and fishing skills. First, let's get the issue of our catch rate for mulch pearls out of the way. Since I have no idea how it works and I've found no information about it, I must assume some sort of formula is used. And at simple sight, we can assume that the drop rate of 1 in 75 is at both 99 hunter and 99 fishing. That will be our start. But the hunter and fishing levels required, both to begin this activity and for every additional fish after that, are not the same, so a bit of speculation is necessary. In this sheet, I've very crudely detailed some information and highlighted the numbers that seem most interesting. These here are the differences in level between 99 in both hunter and fishing, the other fishes you're able to catch with aerial fishing, and being able to catch the first fish available through aerial fishing, a bluegill. The numbers that seem the most interesting are the difference between having both skills at 99 and catching a bluegill with a combined value of 120, and being able to catch the last fish available through aerial fishing, a grand siren, and a bluegill with a combined value of 100. The reason both these numbers are interesting is because they are even numbers, and they represent marks in the progression of the activity, one being the end of both skills required to perform this activity, and the other being the last fish available through the activity. With that in mind come the following formulas: a simple rule of 3 where we take into consideration the sum of our levels, the maximum sum of levels after unlocking aerial fishing, and the total increase in odds we can get. With this, we can now plug in our levels and get a small spread of chance to obtain a mulch pearl, which will give us a rough idea of what to expect. Do note that these numbers are to get a better understanding of how quickly we can reach the drop rate of 1 in 75, with the most optimistic guess being that the levels required to get the best drop rate are 87 hunter and 91 fishing, and a more realistic guess being that we require 99 in both skills. For the purpose of testing, we'll mostly be using the base rate of 1 in 100 and the maximum rate of 1 in 75. To begin our tests, I've created a program that will catch 1 million fishes 100,000 times, with a mulch pearl drop rate of 1 in 100. This is where the law of large numbers comes into play. If my program works, the results should give us an average of 10,000 mulch pearls every 1 million fishes, which means we can continue testing in about 90 minutes. It's a simple program, not an efficient one. While it runs, let me explain a couple things. Since I don't know exactly what kind of RNG RuneScape uses, I've instead created 2 methods of RNG that I thought feasible. The first is a static method, where the player rolls a number between 1 and his pearl catch rate, and if it hits 1, he obtains a pearl. The other method is what I call variable, where both the fishing spot and the player roll a number between 1 and the player's catch rate, and if the number is the same, the player obtains a pearl. In large enough quantities, it won't matter what method of RNG is used. That's why I must run this test so many times, to gather enough data to where it doesn't matter what method of RNG is used. So, now that the program has run its course, we can see both methods return similar results, with an average of around 10,000 mulch pearls obtained after catching 1 million fishes across 100,000 attempts. And since this proves what the law of large numbers tells us, we can move forward. Okay, we're looking for an amount of pearls, not for an amount of fishes, so let's switch this program around. We're now looking for X amount of pearls, so we input the pearls we want, the amount of times we're going to obtain said amount of pearls, and our probability to obtain a pearl. For now, we'll be leaving it at 1 in 100. While we wait for the program to finish, let's look for the last piece of data we need, the amount of time it takes to catch a fish with aerial fishing. For this piece of data, I'm going to be extremely lenient. We're going to assume that the average distance is about 4 tiles, because the furthest away is 7 tiles, but you're going to be catching diagonally a good bit. We'll assume that the first frame of travel is when the bird starts flapping its wings, and the last frame of travel is when it appears back on your arm, and we'll also assume that the player is cutting up fish as he gets them. All that said, we obtain a very rough number of 1 fish every 2 seconds. This figure gives us a grand total of 1,800 fishes an hour, this being at peak performance. While I have been able to obtain such a number of fish per hour, it's only been in bursts of 5 minutes, as it can be extremely taxing to your hand and wrist, and not very enjoyable. Not to mention that the act of constantly fishing may cause you to reach an overflow of fish, which inevitably leads to lost time. A more reasonable figure is an average of 1,500 fishes per hour, where you'll have some room for mistakes and you won't feel like your hand is falling off. If you were to use a more leisurely method, where you catch an inventory of fishes and let the game cut them for you, you'd be looking at anywhere from 1,200 to 1,000 fishes per hour. Quite honestly, after the first couple hours of doing this activity, the only method that felt reasonable was to catch an inventory and let it cut itself. But for the purpose of testing, we'll be using the figure of 1,500 fishes per hour, or 1 fish every 2.4 seconds. Back to the program. As we can see, starting with a chance of 1 in 100, we require on average 37,000 fishes to obtain our 370 pearls. The unluckiest player in our test required around 46,000 fishes, and the luckiest player required around 30,000 fishes. This means it'll take the player anywhere between 31 hours and 20 hours to get his 370 pearls. I'll make this program a bit nicer to look at. There we go. And now we can test with other probabilities: number of pearls to obtain, chance to obtain a pearl, number of iterations, and catch rates. Plus, we get to see the bell curve. Now that we have more freedom of input, let's see how many fishes we'd have to catch if we were level 99 in both hunter and fishing to get our 370 pearls. And the results are: on average, we'd require around 27,750 fishes, at most we'll require around 34,000 fishes, and at least around 22,000 fishes, taking us anywhere from 15 to 23 hours. Considerably less, but at the same time, still way too many and still way too long. Consider also that you could by chance get a golden tench, which can be sold for 100 mulch pearls. This would drastically decrease the time required to obtain your 370 pearls, but that's a 1 in 20,000 chance, which means that the amount of time it might take to get even just the one is anywhere from 2 seconds to 200 hours. Extremely unreliable, and it's a golden tench. You're not going to sell the first one you get. So while it's nice having the option to sell spare ones, we can't rely on golden tenches to make up part of our pearl count. Here's where we begin to dive into what's wrong with aerial fishing, and there's a lot wrong with it. Let me elaborate. First of all, the drop rate. As we've already seen, the drop rate lends itself to huge variations in the amount of time that it can take a player to get his pearls, and the 370 pearls will not buy you everything in this store. A drop rate of 1 in 100 will have a much higher variability in the number of fishes you need to catch in order to get your pearls, which is bad. Instead of going, nice, a pearl, every time you get a pearl, you instead go, finally, a pearl. That's the biggest sign of bad RNG. It doesn't feel rewarding at all. In comparison, we have activities like Motherlode Mine, in which every time you obtain pay dirt, you have a 2.74% chance, according to the wiki, of obtaining a nugget. In stark contrast to the, at most, 1.33% chance, with 99 in both the hunter and fishing skills, of obtaining a pearl with aerial fishing. The biggest difference between these activities, however, is not in the drop rate for their special currencies, but rather that Motherlode Mine rewards you with ores every time that you don't get a nugget, where in aerial fishing, you get an useless fish that you have to cut. It gives terrible experience for cutting it and has little to no value. Another similar activity is tight farming, where there's absolutely no RNG involved. Instead, it gives you 26 points every 100 fruits you harvest, which allows you to have a very clear idea of how long it'll take you to get your items from the store. To finish up this point, we can look at Wintertot, where the reward you get is based in RNG, but by putting more effort into the activity, you can get better rewards, as in higher quantity of rewards. Generally speaking, it's a good activity. The second point is the rewards. Unique to the store, there are only 4 items: the pearl fishing rod at 100 mulch pearls, the pearl fly fishing rod at 120 mulch pearls, the Bavarian pearl fishing rod at 150 mulch pearls, and the fish sack at 1000 mulch pearls. Additionally, we have the angler's outfit with a price of 100 mulch pearls apiece. Now you are getting the full picture of the problem. We saw how long it takes to get just 370 pearls. What if we wanted to grind out the angler's outfit using this method? What if we wanted the fish sack? What if we wanted every item in the store? The answer to that last question is, on average, we'd need to catch 132,750 fishes, at most 148,000 fishes, at least 120,000 fishes, taking the player anywhere from 80 to 99 hours. This is of course if you had 99 in both skills. The amount will go up every level below 99 on either hunter or fishing. This is absolutely atrocious. Let's go back to the Motherlode mine. What are the rewards? Prospector's outfit, which serves the same purpose as Angler's outfit, except it's not priced at 100 nuggets each. Every piece has its own separate value according to the increase of XP they give. Then we have the gem and coal bags, which both seem super useful. Then we have the upgrades to the mine itself, which make the activity nicer. And lastly, we have the bag full of gems and the soft clay packs, which give the nuggets an actual value in gold pieces. Moving on to tithe farming, we have the farmer's outfit, again each piece priced differently according to the increasing XP rates they give, Grickler's can, which became much more useful now that it can be filled with any water source, definitely best in slot for tithe farming now, seed box, which is incredibly useful, auto weed, which is a simple convenience, and then the items that give your tithe farming points a value in gold pieces, compost, super compost, grape seeds, and Bologa's blessings. We're starting to get a pattern here. Wintertod is just money all around, no need to explain that one. The real kicker here is that farming those 370 pearls will only save you one slot in your inventory while fishing with any of the rods. Meanwhile, a gem bag allows you to pick up a lot of gems while slaying, unlocks different crafting methods, saves bank space, it does a lot of things. Similar thing with the coal bag, they're incredibly good purchases compared to the pearl rods. Same thing with the seed box. It'll save you inventory space and bank space and makes gearing up for farm runs simpler. So overall good purchases. The same can't be said of the pearl rods. Top it all off with the fact that past those initial 370 mulch pearls, there is absolutely no value to them. They can't be turned into gold pieces. Unlike nuggets, unlike tithe farming points, unlike Wintertod crates, there is just no use for mulch pearls after you've bought your gear, and the activity itself won't be making you any money. Point number 3. Experience rates. The activity isn't done strictly for the items or the money, right? Well, the experience rates aren't the best either. You'd think they'd be great considering you're making no money and you're not getting much for a reward, but for the most part, they're not. At the starting level, you're looking at 16.5 hunter experience per catch. Considering our number of 1500 fishes per hour, we get a rate of 24,750 hunter experience per hour. This is at what we deemed not quite peak performance, but much above what is enjoyable. As for fishing, we're looking at 11.5 experience per fish, giving us a total of 17,250 XP per hour at the same non-enjoyable speed. These rates will go up after unlocking the next fishes, but not by an awful lot. You're better off doing anything that'll get you to Chinchampas faster for Hunter, and anything else for fishing. In the interest of fairness, we could get an experience rate of 29,700 experience per hour for Hunter and 20,700 experience per hour for fishing, but this pace is extremely difficult to maintain, and above all, it's not fun. As for experience rates at level 99, the highest I've seen reported is 100k XP per hour for Hunter and 70k XP per hour for fishing, which I'd have to guess is done at a rate of close to 1500 fishes per hour. I can't test this at the moment, but I'm inclined to believe it since I can't blame any person with both skills at 99 for not wanting to do this activity. The problem here isn't strictly speaking the experience rates, it's more so the effort necessary to get those experience rates, which leads into the next problem. Point number 4, the activity itself. It's dull. The idea of a high actions per minute skilling method is nice. The difference, however, between something like 3-tick barbarian fishing and aerial fishing is that one's intended and the other isn't. If you wanted to do barbarian fishing in a more AFK manner, you could, but you can't do so with aerial fishing. You have to be there putting attention most of the time. The only AFK time you get is if you let your inventory fill with fish and only then caught them. Add to this that both the fishing spots and the rate at which you click are changing constantly, and it quickly becomes a frustrating activity. Any incentive you have to do this activity is quickly forgotten once you actually get to doing the activity and realize how dull it is. Now that we've described all the major problems with this activity, we need to look at what can be done to fix it. So, what can be done to fix it? Well, when pretty much everything is wrong, pretty much anything can be done. And that's the biggest answer I can give, so let's focus on specific fixes. First of all, drop rates and experience rates. These are both necessary fixes and the most boring fixes. Making the drop rates better would make it variable. Same thing with increasing XP rates, but it ultimately would not make it a good activity. Still, let's fix this. First, let's fix drop rates. This is the real reason I made that program, to determine the spread of RNG. If you have a drop rate of 1 in 100, getting 100 pearls means getting 10,000 fishes, right? Wrong. We've already seen that the spread of the least amount of fishes you need to the most amount of fishes you need is huge. And it's this spread that makes RNG feel bad. So with the help of a program like the one I've made, we can determine a good drop rate where the spread isn't so bad. This will help the activity feel more deterministic, where you can more or less expect to spend a certain amount of time getting your items. So, would making the drop rate say 1 in 20 help? Most certainly, but then it becomes an activity you do for one day and you forget about. That's why simply increasing drop rate is a boring fix. It basically put into question why the activity exists in the first place. The idea then is to find a perfect spot where time taken per item and variability of said time are within acceptable bounds. Let's start with the previously mentioned 1 in 20. What would our numbers look like? To obtain our 370 pearls would require on average 7,400 fishes, at most 9,300 fishes, and at least 5,900 fishes. That looks a lot better. Consider a catch rate of 1 fish every 2.4 seconds, which again is at more or less peak performance, and we get a time of around 4 to 6 hours. Much better, but then it becomes something you do for a day and stop right after, which is lame. The drop rate I would then suggest is 1 in 40 with the minimum required levels, which would give us a time range of around 8 to 13 hours, moving down to 1 in 20 at level 99 in both skills. This drop rate combined with the changes to XP rates I'll be mentioning next would mean that you'll quickly get to a drop rate of around 1 in 30 and it'll slowly get better from there. Point number 2, experience rates. Let's begin with Hunter XP rates since they're the highest. Would you do this for Hunter experience knowing it starts off at around 20k XP per hour? Chances are yes, it's a good bit of experience for level 35, but the activity itself quickly discourages these more optimal experience rates. Meanwhile, other Hunter methods like Swamp Lizards can give you up to 25k XP per hour, Prickly Cabbits at level 37 give somewhere around 20k XP per hour, and starting at 43 you can do Falconry with an incredible ceiling of around 50k XP per hour, with the added benefit that they're not as dull and non-enjoyable as aerial fishing. If we were to take the figure of 1,200 fishes per hour, we'd get an experience rate of around 20k XP per hour, which in my opinion is a much more reasonable rate to expect. So, fishing experience then? Well, it's worse than Hunter, and you're also not getting anything out of it, so just go do Barbarian fishing, or anything in Caterpie. The fix for both of this is quite simple, a 10 to 30% increase in XP per catch. Why 10 to 30%? At an increase of 10%, we're looking at rates of 27.2k XP per hour in Hunter and 18.9k XP per hour in fishing, both at minimum level and 1500 fishes per hour. That's a combined 46.2k XP per hour. That's still not very good, it is however variable considering the effort necessary to catch 1500 fishes per hour. Over at level 99, we're looking at somewhere around 187k combined experience per hour, 110k XP per hour in Hunter and 77k XP per hour in fishing. But even at 10% increase in raw catching experience, it's not quite as good as other Hunter or fishing activities, especially considering that you're making almost no gold per hour. If we were to increase XP rates by 30%, we're looking at 54.6k combined experience per hour, all the way up to 221k combined experience per hour. That's a lot better, however it does verge on a bit too good. While I'd love to see an increase of 30%, starting off with an increase of 20% would be ideal. Furthermore, the experience rates can be finely tuned by changing the increase of experience for each individual fish, with the idea that giving a bigger increase to lower level fishes would make for better early level XP rates, and a lower increase to higher level fishes would make for an earlier plateau. So, that should be enough to fix this activity, right? Far from it. Those changes would make it, as I previously said, variable. It would not make it a good activity. What this activity lacks is a huge deal of imagination. The concept itself is all right, but everything else is dull. There's just nothing special to it. My suggestions to make this a good activity are as follows. Number 1, break the monotony. Catch, cut, that's all there is to this activity, and you must put a good deal of attention to do it efficiently. So how about breaking up the monotony with special events? What if every now and then a bigger fishing pool opened, and this fishing pool lasted multiple catches, gave better chances of catching higher level fishes, and better chances of getting pearls? It'd go a long way in rewarding players for the effort they must put in. Number 2, fish chunks. Can cats even eat this? That's a nice starting point. Make these things useful. What about fish stew? Smells awful, tastes worse, damages you when you eat it. Doesn't matter, it's something. Or maybe fishy potions. A quick way to an empty stomach, lowers all your stats, something. There's absolutely zero use for them outside the activity itself. Number 3, rewards. Currently the rewards are very shallow. You can either get a rod which frees up a space in your inventory when fishing with them, or you can get a fish sack. There's no reason to get your angler's outfit this way, since fishing trawler will take around 4 to 6 hours for the whole thing, compared to obtaining 400 mulch pearls, which would take anywhere from 16 to 25 hours, with both skills at level 99. For the current rewards, there's only one change I'd like to see. Make the angler's outfit pieces have different prices according to their increase in XP. This should go without saying, it's already been done for both prospectors and farmers' outfits. As for new rewards, here are my suggestions. Tackle box. If you're going to let us equip rods as a weapon, then let us put bait into a tackle box and equip it as ammo. It only makes sense, and it seems short-sighted to give us 27 inventory spaces while fishing. Why stop at 27? Might as well make it 28 so it looks nice and clean. Actual fish sack. Much like gem and coal bags, a sack that lets you carry uncooked fish. This one would require much more consideration since it'd make fishing more AFK, but it's not too far from items we already have in-game. Another example to consider is the herb sack, which serves a very similar purpose. The actual fish sack would need to be small compared to other holding items, since being able to carry more fish could result in some training areas becoming better than others, mainly areas with fires available. Anywhere from 8 to 20 fishes would be a nice starting point. Master bait packs. Packs that contain a type of bait that can be used for any kind of fishing. This will be more of a convenience rather than an incredibly useful item, much like compost in tide farming and soft clay packs in Motherlode Mine. Sack of assorted fish. Sacks that you can open and obtain a random number of fish from. This alongside master bait packs would give mulch pearls some value in gold pieces. The type and amount of fish could be determined by your fishing level, ranging from lobsters to anglerfish, and the amount is completely up in the air. Depends on the drop rate of mulch pearls and the desired value of mulch pearls. That's a start in making this activity worthwhile, but it's still not enough. Let's look back at the other activities. In Motherlode Mine, we can unlock access to a second level where ore veins function differently and it's closer to the hopper. That's a great upgrade if you plan to do Motherlode Mine for extended periods of time. Additionally, we can increase the size of the ore sack so we can spend more time mining. Both of these upgrades make the activity better and more enjoyable. Turning over to tide farming, with the recent change to Grey Color Scan, it's now become an upgrade to the activity itself, since you're no longer required to carry around 8 watering cans and runes if you're using lunar spells to refill your cans, or many more watering cans and manually refilling them. Lastly, and to some extent, Wintertod, every time you open a crate, you have a chance of getting gear that makes you warm, and being warm reduces the damage you take. Granted, you can achieve the same effect using gear from outside Wintertod, but it makes for a nice upgrade you can obtain while doing the activity itself. With that in mind, my suggestions for activity improving rewards are as follows. Number 1, the ability to use a fishing spot twice. It gets a bit annoying after a while having to move your mouse all over the place, and sometimes you can find yourself with no close-by fishing spots. This ability would make the activity a bit more pleasant since you wouldn't find yourself running out of fishing spots as often, especially if paired up with the next suggestion. Number 2, Dual-wielding Birds. Might seem ridiculous, especially paired with the proposed changes to XP rates, but you have to keep in mind that being able to catch fishes 2 at a time doesn't necessarily mean double XP rates, since you're still limited by having to cut or drop the fishes, which will inevitably result in losses to potential XP per hour. It does have to be noted that should this be implemented, the previously proposed increase to raw XP would still be required, with the idea that a raw increase of XP of say 30% given double the catch rate would not result in an overall increase of 60% to XP rates, since you're still limited by your inventory space. That being said, it is the reason I propose a range of XP increase rather than a solid number. The XP per hour rates can be further tweaked by changing the increase of experience each individual fish gives within a range of 10 to 30%. The main purpose of an ability like this would not be to increase the maximum fishes per hour that we can catch, but to make the activity more AFKable, by allowing the player to fill the inventory faster and letting the game cut the fishes, turning this activity from a constant endeavor into short bursts of high action per minute followed by a nice pause. When it comes to the golden tench, I've got no problem with such a chase item. The only thing I could suggest is adding a gold gill to wear as a defender to match. All these proposed changes are, in the end, to make this activity good, to make it fall in line with other similar activities, to make it worth your time, to make it worth your attention, and most importantly, to make it enjoyable. Let's wind down a bit. I'm sure that if you got this far, you'll be asking yourself, why would someone care this much about such a dull piece of content? Well, because I'm disappointed. So far, every bit of content I've done in this game has been enjoyable, even when RNG is a bit difficult. But this activity really made me question whether I wanted to log in. I'd already set myself to getting the pearl rods, but somehow the prospect of logging in 2 hours of aerial fishing just discouraged me. And I can't say the same for many other activities. It's disappointing to see wasted potential, and I'd hate to see a relatively new piece of content fall to the wayside. Anyways, thank you for watching. Please share your opinions, criticism, and anything else you'd like to say, and help me get this to the wonderful team of developers over at Jagex. Thanks.